We have to start by understanding the man himself. Cary Grant wasn't even his real name. He was born Archibald Leech in Bristol, England. His childhood was filled with trauma. His mother was committed to a mental institution when he was young, and his father told him she had died. He grew up poor, feeling abandoned and utterly alone. That pain never really left him. It created a deep void inside, a need to be loved and a simultaneous fear of being truly known. When he sailed to America with a theater troupe, he saw his chance to escape. He decided to kill Archie Leech and become Cary Grant. He crafted this new persona with meticulous care. Cary Grant was suave, confident, witty, and impossibly handsome. He was everything Archie wasn't. The world fell in love with this image. But for the man behind it, it was a prison of his own making. He once famously said, "Everyone wants to be Cary Grant. Even I want to be Cary Grant." Now, let's talk about old Hollywood. It was a glittering cage. The studios controlled everything. They crafted public images, arranged fake dates between their stars, and even orchestrated marriages of convenience. All of this was to maintain the illusion for the public. For actors who were gay or bisexual, the stakes were unimaginably high. It wasn't just about scandal. It was about career annihilation. Being exposed could mean being blacklisted, your contracts torn up, and your name ruined forever. This is the world Cary Grant navigated. He married women, of course. He had 5 wives. But those who knew him well, his inner circle, often whispered that these marriages were attempts to quiet the rumors, to fit into the mold Hollywood demanded. They were performances, much like his films. The real Cary Grant, the man behind the perfect smile, was living a life of profound secrecy and loneliness. He was constantly looking over his shoulder. So, who did he secretly love? The names are a revelation, not because they are unknown, but because they were some of the most celebrated leading men of the era. The first was Randolph Scott. This is the most documented and discussed relationship from Grant's early years in Hollywood. In the 1930s, the 2 young, breathtakingly handsome actors lived together in a beach house people nicknamed Bachelor Hall. The studio publicity machine spun this as 2 frugal bachelors saving money. But the truth was far deeper. They were inseparable. Home movies from the time show them laughing, cooking together, playfully wrestling in the yard. They looked like a young couple in love. They built a life together for years. The Hollywood columnists of the time wrote about their domestic bliss with a wink and a nudge, but the public largely accepted the studio's narrative. It was a different time. People saw what they were told to see. This relationship with Randolph Scott was likely Cary's first great love in Hollywood. It was a safe harbor where he could, for a few precious moments, let the mask of Cary Grant slip and just be Archie with someone he trusted. But the pressure from the studio to maintain a heterosexual image grew too intense. The cozy domestic setup was becoming a problem. To protect both their careers, they had to stage a separation. They moved into separate homes and began to be seen with starlets. The second major relationship was with the actor, Tyrone Power. Power was another colossal star, known for his swashbuckling roles and devastating good looks. Like Cary, he was trapped in a carefully constructed heterosexual image, forced into marriages by the studio. Their connection was more discreet than his time with Scott, born of a shared, unspoken understanding of the immense pressures they both faced. They moved in the same social circles. Their bond was built on mutual recognition. They were 2 men who understood the exact weight of the fame they carried and the lies they had to tell. It was a relationship of quiet support and stolen moments. They couldn't be seen too often together in public, so their connection flourished in private parties, on closed sets, and in whispered conversations. It was a romance of necessity and deep, unspoken empathy. The third name that surfaces is that of Cole Porter, the legendary composer. While Porter wasn't an actor, he was a titan of Hollywood and Broadway, and his world was a sanctuary for gay men in the industry. Cary Grant was a frequent guest at Porter's extravagant, notoriously wild parties. These were safe spaces where the rules of the outside world didn't apply. Men could dance with men, and relationships didn't have to be hidden. Grant's relationship with Porter was one of deep affection and intellectual connection. They moved in a world of artists, musicians, and writers who were more accepting. It was in this environment that Cary could breathe more freely. While their relationship may not have been a long-term romance like the one with Scott, it was a significant part of his hidden life, a testament to the community he found away from the prying eyes of the studio and the public. Living this double life took a tremendous psychological toll on Cary Grant. The constant fear of exposure was paralyzing. He couldn't be his authentic self with almost anyone. He developed a reputation for being difficult, controlling, and distant. This wasn't just a personality trait, it was a defense mechanism. By keeping people at arm's length, he protected his most vital secret. The charm was a shield. The wit was a wall. He also began to experiment with LSD in the 1950s under psychiatric supervision. He was searching for something, some kind of peace or understanding of himself. In his own words, he said it was to rid himself of all the hypocrisies and accumulated scars of a lifetime. It's impossible to ignore that a part of that accumulated scar was the pain of a life lived in hiding, of loves that could never be acknowledged. Why are we so sure about these relationships? The evidence is compelling. There are the photographs of Grant and Scott in their domestic life, which tell a story far beyond mere friendship. There are the memoirs of contemporaries like actor and confidant, William Haynes, who spoke openly in private about the gay community in Hollywood. Most importantly, there were Grant's own guarded hints later in life. He never explicitly came out, but he stopped denying the rumors. He began to make statements that were deliberately ambiguous. He told an interviewer, "I think most people are bisexual. It's nothing to be ashamed of." For a star of his magnitude in that era, this was a seismic statement. It was as close to the truth as he felt he could get. It was his way of finally, after all those years, letting a little bit of Archie Leech see the light of day, and acknowledging the loves he was forced to hide. For decades after his death, the estate of Cary Grant and his former wives fiercely protected his image. The official story was the one the studios had crafted, the debonair ladies' man. But the whispers never truly went away. They were kept alive by Hollywood insiders, by film historians, and by a growing understanding of the brutal pressures of the studio system. The story of the real Cary Grant was a quiet undercurrent beneath his legendary filmography. The story truly began to break into the mainstream with the publication of meticulously researched biographies. Books like Cary Grant, The Lonely Heart, by Charles Hyam, and Evenings with Cary Grant, by Nancy Nelson pieced together the testimony of those who knew him best. They interviewed old friends, colleagues, and lovers who were finally, in a more accepting time, willing to speak their truth. The wall of silence was crumbling. What these accounts reveal is a man perpetually at war with himself. The public Cary Grant was the epitome of cool, calm, and collected. The private Archie Leech was anxious, prone to depression, and struggled to form lasting, intimate connections. This dichotomy is the key to understanding him. The very persona that made him a star was also the thing that prevented him from ever being truly happy or known.